Hey, lovelies. Welcome back to season 4 of the U R Immeasurable podcast. I'm Tonesha Hyde, your host, divine business alchemist, healer, sacred mirror, and warrior mystic. After taking a very sacred pause, doing some deep reflection, and a whole lot of realignment, we're bringing you this season with a whole new frequency. We're going deeper, discussing richer topics, and getting more soul-rooted than ever. Now, we're still talking divine alignment, but we're expanding it. So this season, we're reclaiming our power through our shadow work, through our intuitive healing, through our ancestral wisdom, and we're even going to talk about and explore our sacred rage. We're here to honor the truth that the journey back to ourselves isn't always pretty, but it absolutely is powerful. We're going to talk about navigating the dark feminine, connecting with the parts of ourselves that we've been taught to fear, and realigning our lives and our businesses from the inside out. Now, you know me, I keep it real. So absolutely expect some raw solo episodes, some sacred storytelling, and also some soulful guest conversations with people who are doing the deep work and living boldly in their truth. And just so you know, new episodes are now going to drop every Wednesday. And that too is part of the realignment, because sometimes you just need that midweek reminder that you are still magic, you're still worthy, and you still are on your path. So whether you're sipping tea, coffee, a glass of wine, under the moonlight, let's go ahead and raise a glass to healing, to expansion, and to becoming the most unapologetic, authentic, and immeasurable version of ourselves. Are you ready? Let's get into it. Welcome back to the U R Immeasurable podcast. For this week's episode, I want to do something a little bit different, but keep in mind that it's something that is deeply necessary. You know that this space is completely devoted to the healing, reclamation, and empowerment of women, especially Black and brown women and other women of color. And that's absolutely not changing. But today, I want to bring something else, something very, very vital and something very important into this conversation. In the US, June is Men's Mental Health Month. And as someone who walks the realm between healing, shadow work, spiritual transformation, and ancestral remembrance, I know in my bones, in my soul, and in the very center of my being that we cannot talk about our healing as women without acknowledging the men. We can't talk about liberation and then exclude men. We can't ignore them. We can't overlook the weight that they carry as we carry ours. We can't keep speaking about wholeness and then look past the emotional wounds of our fathers, of our sons, our husbands, our lovers, our brothers, our nephews, and our male friends. So today, I want to dedicate this episode to them. And we have to realize that healing is collective. It's generational. It's even more than gender. It's so deep. So getting real and really, let's talk about it. We have to recognize that most men, and that I speak from the place of what I've seen and what I know. I'm saying most men, especially Black and brown men and men of color, growing up, they weren't taught how to feel. Yeah, they were taught how to protect. Some were taught how to provide. They were all taught how to endure, but they weren't taught how to process their grief. They weren't taught how to name or identify loneliness. They weren't taught how to say, I'm scared, or I need help, or even, I don't know who I am anymore. And having to be honest, as I've shared with you all before, I grew up with brothers. I'm the only girl, right? I've seen this. I know this to be true because being the eldest, my brothers would have friends over and I was around all of these boys. And so these things that I'm speaking about again are from what I've seen, from the things that I know. I know them to be true. And I know that for many young men, for many boys, from when they're very young, they're told to man up, that boys don't cry, or men don't cry, not to be soft, that they can't be weak. And so we have to look at things through the same lens that we look at our pain and the things that have been drilled in us as women, the things that we've heard over and over again. And so we have to look at it the same way on their side. And we have to realize that after being told that over and over again, after hearing that over and over again, we know it to be true that that message calcifies. It hardens. And not just in your mind, but in your body as well. They get to a point where they just start swallowing their pain. They armor up emotionally and they sometimes can't forget that they're human. And I have to say that this is something important for us to look at, to recognize, because the truth is, when they forget, we suffer too, because we talk about this all the time. Unhealed masculinity, it shows up in our relationships. It shows up in how these young boys become men. And then when they become fathers, it shows up in how they father or how they don't. It shows up in how they love us or how they don't know how to. It shows up in how they trust or how they don't because they don't feel safe. And I'm bringing this up not to make it about blaming anyone. As always, it's about being real. It's about speaking the truth. And truth is the foundation of healing. As one who walks with the feminine, with dragons, with goddesses, and with ancestors, they've taught me that just like we as women have been silenced and suppressed, our men have been cut off from their heart. And it's absolutely not because they're weak, but it's because they were never given permission to be whole. And so as I reach into, as I accept, and as I allow to come forth within me, the dark feminine, I realize that I absolutely don't look at it as something that needs to be fixed. And I mean that as in, they're not projects. They're not a broken table leg or a chair leg that needs to be tightened up. They need to be witnessed. I want to offer them a safe space to be witnessed, to be seen, and to let them know that they don't have to earn their softness and that they don't have to suffer alone. As I said, I grew up with brothers, so I've always had more boys around me than girls. I've always had more male friends than female friends. And I've watched how Black men, those that I've loved, those that I do love, my brothers, my nephews, my cousins, and even those that I may not know, I've watched how they've had to shrink under the pressure of being everything. And that was actually a conversation that my husband and I had before we got married. And I didn't fully understand it because he kept saying getting married would put more pressure on him. We talked about it over and over because I didn't really understand what he was trying to tell me. But there was a moment only a few days after we got married that one morning I woke up and I felt it. And when I described the feeling to him, he was like, yes, that's it. That's it. He was like, you feel it now, huh? I was like, yeah, wow, wow. And I think that it is definitely something that we must do to acknowledge that pressure that they are under. Because I've seen it, I'm sure many of you have seen it, how they bottle up grief and then we're looking at them crazy when it turns into rage because they didn't have that outlet or they didn't have that safe space to be able to express how they felt or how they feel without being judged. We want that. So why don't we offer that to them? I've known and I've spoken with men who didn't know how to let love in. I've had experiences and then mourned relationships where silence just buried things that communication could have saved. And these are the things that I'm reflecting on now and realize that there were moments where the little girl in me wanted to be chosen. And now, as a grown woman, I see both my wounds and their wounds. And I know sometimes we don't want to hear it, but this is one of those messy truths of healing. We might think that we're isolating ourselves, but we really don't because it always spills out and spills over, both for us as women and for them as men. And I don't know if I have many male listeners. But I do want to say to the men who might be listening, if no one's ever told you before, I want you to hear me now. You are not a machine. You are not just a provider. Feeling your feelings, expressing them, letting them out, sharing them does not make you less of a man. And I want you to know that you don't have to carry everything alone. You most certainly get to be whole. You absolutely deserve to be able to be soft. There's nothing wrong with you needing to cry, and you most assuredly get to rest. Brokenness is not your legacy. You 100% are human, and you do deserve these things. And I also want to say to my women listeners that this is your invitation to witness the men in your life, to hold space for them with patience, with compassion, and with truth. It's not about you mothering them. It's not about you shrinking yourself for them. It's about you being willing to see them fully and to invite them to see themselves. Because just as we want to be healed, healthy, and whole, we should also want that for the men in our lives. Healthy, whole men are not a threat to us. That's a layer, another part of our liberation. And we are a part of theirs. So today I just want to leave with you something to think about, something that maybe you should have a conversation about, that we must understand, overstand, and understand. The healing the collective doesn't just mean empowering the feminine. It means honoring the wounded masculine too. It means creating spaces where both can rise. Because all of us have both of these energies within us. And as we move forward, not just during this month, but as we move forward, I'd like to issue a challenge to all of us to start a conversation, to hold space for a man to feel safe, to feel, to express those feelings. And if there's someone that crosses your mind, weighs on your heart, check in with them. And I mean, really, really check in, because wholeness has nothing to do with gender. Healing doesn't pick sides, and none of us can rise if we're still carrying silence for someone else. So I want you to really think about it, really take this in, and know that just as I'm rooting for the immeasurable you, I'm also rooting for the immeasurable him too. Let's keep healing. Let's keep coming together. And until next time, cheers to your transformation. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of You Are Immeasurable. I hope something in today's conversation sparked a remembering, a shift, or even just a softening in your spirit. If you loved this episode, do me a favor. Please share it with someone who needs it, and make sure you're following the show so that you never miss a new activation. You can connect with me over on Instagram or Facebook at Agitator Hyde. That's my handle on all platforms. DMs are always open if you want to go deeper. If you have questions, or you just want to share how the episode landed for you, or you can also comment on whichever platform you are listening to this episode on. Always remember, your power, your path, and your purpose are already within you. You are absolutely not broken. You are blossoming. You are becoming. And remember, you are immeasurable. So until next time, be well, be bold, and stay true to the divine within you.